Today, DesireTheSeries would like to introduce a short story titled Shen Wenlang Takes Care of His Pregnant Wife Part 2. If you enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel to give me more motivation. Thank you all. I want to make amends to him, Shen Wenlang replied, his voice unsteady. That night, I was too irresponsible. Su Luo gently shook his head, his eyes seeming to see straight into Shen Wenlang's soul. You came to tell him that you were going insane missing him. That is not the word of someone wanting to make amends. I saw the pain in your eyes, Mr. Shen. So I ask again, why did you come looking for him? Shen Wenlang fell silent. He looked down, Su Luo's words feeling like a direct blow to the dishonesty in his heart. He had been deceiving himself that he came out of responsibility. But the truth was, he came out of yearning, out of love, because he couldn't bear being without Gao Tu. I love him, Shen Wenlang whispered, his voice full of remorse. You're right. I didn't come out of responsibility, I came out of love. Su Luo looked at him, a rare smile appearing on his lips. He didn't say anything, just letting Shen Wenlang continue to express his feelings. When he left, I thought I could live without him. But the longing grew, and the emptiness in my heart tormented me every day. I realized, I missed Gao Tu, missed everything about him. From his smile to the way he made tea, even his silence. Tears began to fall from Shen Wenlang's eyes. This was the first time he had cried for Gao Tu, crying for his own stupidity. Your love is genuine, Su Luo said, his voice full of sympathy. But my question isn't finished. I know you saw Gao Tu's belly. That's why he left. So I ask you, if that baby is not yours, would you accept Gao Tu? Would you accept a man who is carrying another man's child? Su Luo's question was like a sharp knife stabbing straight into Shen Wenlang's heart. He looked up, meeting Su Luo's eyes. This was a difficult question, one he had never dared to face. He had been insanely jealous, had screamed about whose baby it was. But now, facing the truth, he had to question himself. Was his love big enough to overcome everything? He looked at the raindrops outside the window, recalling the image of Gao Tu standing before him, his face thinner but possessing a strange resolve. He remembered the pain in Gao Tu's eyes. Shen Wenlang took a deep breath. I accept, he said, his voice trembling but full of determination. I love Gao Tuesday. No matter whose baby it is, I will still love him. If there is hope, I will wait. I lost him once. I don't want that to happen again. I want to raise the child with him, even if I am not its father. Su Luo was silent for a moment, looking into Shen Wenlang's determined and distressed eyes. Finally, a genuine smile spread across his face. Mr. Shen, Su Luo said, his voice filled with emotion. Congratulations. You have passed the test of love. That baby. He paused, looking straight into Shen Wenlang's eyes, speaking the words he had waited for all these months. That baby is yours. Shen Wenlang froze. The world seemed to stop. The sound of the rain, the music, everything vanished. He looked into Su Luo's eyes, and then back towards the window. A feeling of relief, happiness, and profound regret surged through him. The child he had been insanely jealous of was actually his own flesh and blood. He realized that the baby was the result of the night he spent with Gao Tu, whom he had mistaken for another Omega. After learning that Gao Tu was an Omega from Huayong, he understood everything, why Gao Tu pretended to be a Beta, why he left. He had misunderstood him, and his own foolish prejudices had made their relationship complicated. He hated himself, he missed Gao Tu, he wanted to find him, he wanted to tell him that he truly regretted always hurting him and that he wanted to make it up to him, wanted to take care of him because he loved him too. But he never expected that he and Gao Tu had a child. The baby was growing, and he was its father. Tears fell once again. This time, not from sorrow, but from joy. He had been so foolish as to almost lose the two most precious lives in his life. He stood up without a word, only reaching out to grasp Su Luo's hand. Now, he knew what he had to do. He had to find Gao Tu, and he would never let him be alone again. Watching Shen Wenlang's figure walk away, Su Luo raised his coffee cup and took a sip. He hoped the two would have a good outcome so the baby could have the family it deserved. He felt compassion for Gao Tu, an Omega he met one night when he fainted on the street, whom he took to the hospital. Being a doctor and knowing his condition, he had helped him find a place to live and a job, helping him maintain a stable pregnancy. Until now, he had been a close neighbor. Honestly, if he hadn't seen Gao Tu's pain, and if Shen Wenlang hadn't shown up, perhaps he would have pursued him, but now he only hoped he could help them get together. He thought to himself that if Shen Wenlang failed, he wouldn't give up. His gaze became profound, and his refined appearance made him look like a vintage wine that captivates people. Shen Wenlang stood before the familiar door. This time, he no longer had the aggressive look of jealousy or the arrogance of someone demanding back what was lost. He stood there, trembling, his palms drenched in sweat. He had thought about this moment hundreds of times, prepared tens of thousands of words, but now, everything seemed meaningless. He just wanted to see Gao Tu, to face him, and say the apology he had owed him for a very long time. When the door opened, Gao Tu stood there. He said nothing, only looking at him with an empty, tired gaze. There was no more anger, no more despair. Only a terrifying indifference, as if Shen Wenlang were just a stranger. Gao Tu's face had grown thinner, but his eyes were more resolute and stronger than ever. The loose shirt concealed his already large belly, but it couldn't hide the fact that he had matured significantly. Gao Tu! Shen Wenlang whispered, his throat constricted. He didn't dare look directly into his eyes. I came to apologize. Gao Tu stood still, neither retreating nor advancing. You already said that. And I've already said, I don't want to hear anything from you anymore. His voice was icy cold. Shen Wenlang felt his heart clench. No, this time is different. I've realized everything. I didn't come to demand, or to be jealous. I came to apologize for everything I've done. I'm sorry for that night. I'm sorry for being an irresponsible alpha. I'm sorry for being blind, for not recognizing your love. I'm sorry for not being there when you needed me most. I'm sorry for leaving you alone. Shen Wenlang spoke chokingly, every word an expression of remorse, of the deepest regret. He wanted to express all the pain he had gone through, the longing that had tormented him, so Gao Tu could understand that he had changed. But Gao Tu's eyes remained cold, without the slightest flicker of emotion. It's too late, Gao Tu interrupted him, his voice filled with weariness. If you had said those words 6 months ago, perhaps I would have been very happy. But now, they mean nothing. Your love is too late, Shen Wenlang. It can't make up for the months I endured alone. It can't soothe the pain I went through. I know. Shen Wenlang stepped closer, his voice full of despair. I know I was wrong. I know I caused you so much pain. But I understand now, Gao Tuesday. I truly love you. I once thought love was possession, was a bond, but I was wrong. My love is the longing, the emptiness when you're not by my side. I've realized you are everything to me. Gao Tu pursed his lips, his eyes were still cold but held a glimmer of pain. He didn't want to admit that his heart was still moved by his words. He had promised himself he would never be hurt again. You don't love me, Gao Tu said, his tone resolute. You only feel guilty, feel responsible for an outburst that night. You're jealous, you're angry because you think I belong to you, not because you love me. You only love your ego, Shen Wenlang. You can't stand having someone else by my side. You can't stand me having a new life without you. That is not love. That's not true. Shen Wenlang yelled, his eyes looking bloodshot. I've thought about everything. I talked to Su Luo. I know everything you've had to endure. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being a terrible alpha. I'm sorry for not being brave enough to face my own love. But now, I'm ready, Gao Tuesday. I'm ready to love you, to protect you, to become a good father to our child. The name our child was like a spell, startling Gao Tuesday. He looked straight at Shen Wenlang, his eyes filled with helplessness and exhaustion. He no longer wanted to fight. That is not your responsibility, Gao Tu said, his voice becoming fragile. I will raise the child myself. Just as I have done for the past 6 months, I will continue to do. Go home. Gao Tu slowly closed the door, but Shen Wenlang tried to grab it. He looked straight at him, speaking the final words. If you want forgiveness, find it within your own conscience. I cannot give that to you. I no longer have the strength to love you again. The door closed decisively. Shen Wenlang stood frozen, his hand still suspended in midair. His apology was not accepted. That door didn't just close on his face, but on every hope for a new beginning. He knew the road to regaining Gao Tu's trust would be longer than he thought. And he deserved this pain. After the door closed decisively, Shen Wenlang no longer felt the profound grief of the first time. Instead, a dull ache, but accompanied by an unprecedented resolve. He understood that his words could not soothe Gao Tu's pain, nor could they make up for the months he endured alone. Now, he had to use actions. He had to prove that his love was not just empty words, but a persistent, selfless, and non-demanding action. Since that meeting, every early morning, Shen Wenlang came to Gao Tu's door. He didn't knock or call his name. He just silently placed a basket of fresh food, a thermos of warm herbal tea, or a box of supplements prescribed by Su Luo. He did it all discreetly, like an anonymous delivery person. Initially, Gao Tu paid little attention. He thought they were gifts from Su Luo. But then, when Su Luo mentioned it, he realized the truth. He didn't say anything, just sighed, then quietly brought the items inside. The coldness was still there, but he no longer avoided them. After a week, Shen Wenlang decided to take one more risk. One Saturday afternoon, he knocked. Gao Tu opened the door, a little surprised. What do you want? His voice was still cold, but without the despair. I want to stay for a little while, Shen Wenlang said, his voice trembling. He didn't have a begging look, only determination. I just want to help you a bit. Gao Tu looked at him, then at his tightly clenched hands. Finally, he stepped back, saying nothing, leaving a space for him to enter. Shen Wenlang stepped in, his heart pounding. The house was still small, but now, it was no longer an unfamiliar place, but one that contained all his hopes. He got to work. Shen Wenlang wanted to go straight into the kitchen, but Gao Tu blocked him, his eyes full of suspicion. What do you want to do? He asked, his tone cautious. I want to help you with some chores, Shen Wenlang said, his eyes pleading. You've been through so much. Let me do something. Gao Tu looked at him, his face full of hesitation. He wanted to refuse, but then an idea flashed through his mind. Fine, he said, his tone a little challenging. I want to see how much you can do. Shen Wenlang let out a sigh of relief. He took an old apron, rolled up his sleeves, and started washing the dishes. He washed meticulously, every bowl, every chopstick, was scrubbed clean. He remembered how he used to have housekeepers, and he had never had to do these things. But now, he felt happy. Meanwhile, Gao Tu sat on the sofa, his eyes following Shen Wenlang's every action. He didn't say anything, but his silence was an agreement. Shen Wenlang felt his presence, and that gave him strength. After washing the dishes, Shen Wenlang started cooking. He opened the refrigerator, and was surprised to see that all the items he had sent were being used by Gao Tuesday. He took out some vegetables, some meat, and began to cook a soup. He remembered that Gao Tu loved this soup. He carefully sliced the ginger, and the scallions, to give the soup the most special flavor. He knew Gao Tu had struggled a lot, and he needed a nutritious meal. The aroma of the soup spread throughout the house. Gao Tu sat on the chair, his eyes showing a little movement. He didn't expect Shen Wenlang to remember this dish. Shen Wenlang placed the bowl of soup on the table, and he saw Gao Tu was already seated. He said nothing, just stood beside him, watching him eat. Gao Tu ate very slowly, but he finished the entire bowl of soup. That made Shen Wenlang feel immense happiness. After the meal, Shen Wenlang silently cleaned up again. Gao Tu was still sitting there, his eyes still cold, but no longer avoiding him. He had allowed Shen Wenlang to enter his life, even if only a small corner. Since that evening meal, a small change had crept into Gao Tu's life. Every day, Shen Wenlang appeared at the door, bringing various things. Initially, Gao Tu maintained a cold attitude, but he couldn't deny that Shen Wenlang's care had made his life much easier. He no longer had to worry about meals, no longer had to struggle alone with small chores around the house. Though still silent, Gao Tu had allowed Shen Wenlang into his small world. He gradually grew accustomed to his presence, to the fact that he would always be there, silently taking care of him and the baby. One morning, seeing Shen Wenlang standing at the door with a worried look, Gao Tu remembered it was his scheduled prenatal checkup day. Today? I'm going for my checkup, Gao Tu said, his voice trailing off, full of hesitation. He didn't know whether he should invite him along. Shen Wenlang understood. He said nothing, just smiled, a look of relief and happiness on his face. He walked over, opened the car door, and let Gao Tu get in. He didn't refuse. This was the first time the two had gone out together after 6 months of separation, and it was an incredibly meaningful moment. Shen Wenlang sat in the clinic, the tension clearly visible on his face. This was a completely alien world to him, the smell of disinfectant, the hurried footsteps, and the laughter of other couples. He had missed these things before, and now, he had to try not to miss anything more. Gao Tu sat beside him, still maintaining an invisible distance. He wore a loose sweater, but the large belly couldn't be hidden. He didn't say anything, but Shen Wenlang could see the worry in his eyes. He wanted to hold his hand, but was afraid he would pull away. He just sat there silently, breathing in his presence, and feeling him near. When Su Luo called their name, they both walked in. Shen Wenlang noticed Gao Tu was a little anxious, and he had unconsciously clenched his hand. He understood. He gently placed his hand on Gao Tu's, grasping it tightly. This time, Gao Tu didn't pull away. He only looked at him once, then looked back towards Su Luo. Su Luo began the examination. Each of Su Luo's questions was like a reminder to Shen Wenlang. Do you often feel nauseous? Do you have trouble sleeping? Do you feel fatigued? Su Luo asked, and Gao Tu answered honestly. A little. Gao Tu's words were like a dagger in Shen Wenlang's heart. He remembered the nights he had slept soundly, while Gao Tu was alone struggling with nausea and insomnia. He was filled with immense regret. Then, Su Luo asked Gao Tu to lie down for the ultrasound. Shen Wenlang stood beside him, his heart pounding. He knew he had a child, but seeing it with his own eyes was a different matter entirely. When the screen lit up, Shen Wenlang felt the world stand still. He saw a tiny life, nestled in Gao Tu's belly. He saw the small hands and feet, he could almost see the tiny heart beating. The sound of his child's heartbeat was so sacred and beautiful. He wanted to scream, to embrace Gao Tu, to tell him how happy he was. But he could only hold his hand tightly and stare at the screen. He had lost too much in the past, and now, he had to cherish the present. The examination ended. Gao Tu got off the bed. Shen Wenlang was still standing there, his hands trembling. He reached out, gently helping him put his shirt back on. "You saw it," Shen Wenlang said, his voice full of emotion. "Our child." Gao Tu didn't reply. He only looked at him, his eyes complex. The pain was still there, but the coldness had vanished, replaced by a slight vulnerability, a little stir. After the checkup, Shen Wenlang took Gao Tu to a small, cozy restaurant that he had researched carefully. He had spent hours studying dishes that were good for pregnant people and suitable for someone with a sensitive, easily nauseated constitution like Gao Tuesday. This time, he didn't choose the luxurious, expensive places of the past, but a quiet, intimate one. When they entered, he didn't ask Gao Tu what he wanted to eat, but silently ordered the dishes he had prepared in his mind: a bowl of shrimp congee made from fresh shrimp, a plate of garlic sautéed mustard greens, and a glass of orange juice. All were light, easily digestible, nutrient-rich dishes, especially good for pregnant people. This thoughtfulness from Shen Wenlang surprised Gao Tu a little. He had thought Shen Wenlang would still act like an arrogant alpha, but now, he was meticulous about every small detail, as if he were familiar with his preferences. Throughout the meal, Shen Wenlang didn't say much. He just quietly watched Gao Tuesday. He saw him eating with appetite, his face gradually regaining some color. He saw him reach up and rub his belly, and his eyes grew gentle and affectionate. He knew he was talking to the baby inside. In that moment, Shen Wenlang felt immense happiness. He didn't pressure or bother him, but he achieved something important: he created a safe space for Gao Tu to comfortably express his emotions. After eating, Gao Tu didn't say thank you. He said nothing, but the silence was no longer terrifying like before, it became meaningful. When they arrived home, Gao Tu stood at the door, looking at him. "Thank you," he said, his voice much softer. Shen Wenlang smiled faintly. Go in and rest." He didn't say that he would come every day, didn't say that he would do everything for him. He only said one sentence, a simple sentence, but one that carried a deep meaning. And Gao Tu understood. He nodded slightly, then walked into the house, leaving Shen Wenlang standing there, alone in the night, with a heart full of happiness and hope. Early in the morning, the doorbell at Gao Tu's house suddenly rang. He was surprised to see Shen Wenlang standing there, not with a gift basket as usual, but with a large suitcase. He was wearing a simple shirt and jeans, his face showing clear tension, but his eyes were strikingly determined. What are you doing here?" Gao Tu asked, his voice full of confusion and a hint of wariness. Shen Wenlang gripped the suitcase handle tightly, taking a deep breath. I'm moving in," he said, his voice slightly shaky. "Su Luo said you need more careful attention. And I can't leave you alone anymore." "I don't agree," Gao Tu said decisively. "You don't need to agree," Shen Wenlang said, walking straight into the house, placing the suitcase on the floor. "I'll sleep on the sofa, I'll take care of myself. I just need to be here, to take care of you and the baby." He spoke clumsily, not knowing how to persuade, but full of sincerity. Shen Wenlang's decisiveness and somewhat thick-skinned attitude left Gao Tu speechless. He just stood there, watching him, his eyes complex. Since Shen Wenlang moved in, Gao Tu's life unexpectedly changed. He became a genuine family man, although his actions were full of awkwardness and clumsiness. Every morning, Shen Wenlang woke up early. He went into the kitchen, clattering with pots and pans. The noises were sometimes too loud, sometimes too quiet, but Gao Tu knew he was trying to cook breakfast. One morning, Gao Tu woke up and saw a steaming bowl of fish congee placed on the table. Beside it was a glass of warm milk and a small note. "Remember to eat breakfast, don't let it get cold." The handwriting was messy, and the congee looked a bit watery, but Gao Tu still felt the warmth from it. He had spent hours researching food good for pregnant people, learning how to cook the dishes he liked, even though he had never cooked before. Shen Wenlang also learned how to clean the house. He scrubbed every small corner, but sometimes scratched the wooden table. He folded clothes, but did it very messily. Every time Gao Tu saw it, he shook his head, but instead of scolding, he silently redid it properly. Shen Wenlang saw that too, and he looked at Gao Tu, his eyes full of gratitude. He knew he was gradually accepting his presence. One evening, when Gao Tu was sitting on the sofa, feeling tired, Shen Wenlang gently approached. He knelt down in front of him, massaging his swollen feet. He did it unprofessionally, the pressure was sometimes too strong, sometimes too light. Gao Tu slightly frowned, but didn't object. He closed his eyes, feeling the warmth from his hands. In that moment, Shen Wenlang felt immense happiness. He knew his clumsiness was no longer an obstacle, but had become a way for him to express his love. Shen Wenlang also learned to listen. He no longer forced Gao Tu to talk about their feelings, but only listened to what he said about his life, his work, and his fears. One night, Gao Tu couldn't sleep. He sat on the sofa, looking out the window. Shen Wenlang sat down next to him, saying nothing. Are you scared? Gao Tu suddenly asked. Scared of being a father, Gao Tu said, his voice filled with weariness. I once thought I wouldn't be able to do it. I was so afraid. Shen Wenlang clenched his hand, but said nothing. He only looked into Gao Tu's eyes, and he understood. He gently placed his hand on Gao Tu's, and this time, he didn't pull away. He spoke, his voice full of sincerity. I'm scared too. I missed too much. I wasn't there when you needed me. I'm afraid I won't be able to be a good father. But I will try. I will learn. And I will never abandon you two again. Shen Wenlang's words touched Gao Tu's heart. He nodded slightly, his expression still looking cool but much calmer and gentler. He had been waiting for these words for a long time.